Hi, everybody. It's Lindsay Watley here. I'm at the Corinth Shiloh Fire Department, and we're here today to present you some information leading up to the special tax district vote on November 5th. So I've got Kevin here, who is the chief. He's going to be presenting some information that we've offered to the community during our community meetings that we've hosted throughout the last couple months, as well as June and July. And we wanted to be sure we could bring you all that information virtually for everyone who could not attend our meetings. So please take some time, review the information, and if you have any questions or concerns, reach out to us at info@corinthshilofd.com, and we'll be happy to get back to you. So coming up next is Kevin. So we look forward to hearing his input about the future for Corinth Shiloh.
Hey, thanks, Lindsay, for that introduction. I'm Kevin Christenberry, and I've been in the fire department here since '97, and so I got a couple of things to talk about here in terms of our tax district and sort of how we got started and sort of where we are, and so hopefully you can come away with some good information so you can make an educated decision on November 5th. So a little bit about the fire department history. We were organized in 1963, and the original fire station was over across 123, back there behind Bojangles. If you know where that's at, it's the old Tilson Mechanical Building. Back in the day, it was just a little two-bay building, and the way we were organized is through home rule. And if a community came together and wanted to build a fire department, then they went to Oconee County. Oconee County said, "Sure, you can build a fire station, and you need to build your fire station, and we will provide you a fire truck." And so, times have progressed since the '60s. And when I came along in 1997, our annual budget was just a few $1,000s. Our call volume wasn't quite at 100 calls just yet, and our initial firefighter training was like 80 hours. So a little bit about our building history. As you can see here in the slide of the building over there at Tilson Mechanical, that's now known as Tilson Mechanical, around 82, maybe 80, the organization was just busting at the seams, and they worked with Clemson University to obtain the land that the fire station currently sits on, and they built the fire station. And in 2009, we were lucky enough to be able to purchase the old Shallow Road Schoolhouse, and our plan was to build a substation over on that piece of property to expand the fire department out. And what ended up happening was we worked with Oconee County, and we deeded off the 3 acres of land over there for the schoolhouse into a 1 acre tract and a 2 acre tract, and we leased the property to Oconee County. They built the building, then they turned around and leased us the building to operate the fire station. And because we had some money saved up for that construction project, the organization and the community contacts that we had back at that time in 2015, 2016, decided the best thing to do was go ahead and do the renovation of the main station. Because if you vote at the Ravenel precinct and you've been here for any period of time, you knew what voting looked like here, and we were out of space, and so we needed to do a renovation, and so we decided as a community and an organization to renovate the main station as to what you see today. And our payment is $48,000 a year on our building loan with Community First Bank. And so the other part of building history in 2020, we decided to sell the 2 acres with the old schoolhouse. And so as you can see there, we were able to obtain a little bit of funds with the sale of that property for some net profit around. So about some of the fire department vehicle history that at least I'm aware of. And these are vehicles that the fire department itself has purchased. So around 1990, we purchased Engine 31. That was the open cab Seagrave. We purchased it for around $75,000. I don't remember what the payment on that was, but in '98 we decided to purchase what we call Engine 32. That's the white over red custom cab truck for $250,000. And then in 2017, we purchased Engine 33. That's the black over red fire truck for $550,000. And we use grant funds for that. And I'll talk about grant funds here in a little bit to sort of actually show you exactly how much that costs the fire department and the community. But in terms of today's dollars, that same fire truck from 2017 would cost 550 would now be over $1.1 million. And in 2018, we purchased the red Dodge Charger that you see in the parking lot for $3,300. And that's just a replacement cost, estimated replacement cost. In 2023, we purchased a Suburban, what we call Squad 3, for $21,000. We received a grant. Again, that's on our grant slide coming up as to how much we received on that, and the replacement cost. You can sort of see there. And then this past year, we purchased a white Dodge Ram pickup truck with grant funds, and that's the total grant funds there. And the reason why we purchased a pickup truck is some of us volunteers have pickups, and we use our pickup for station business to haul the trash off, or to haul the lawnmower, or to go pick up oil dry, or to actually move furniture back and forth from the substation to the main station, or after a fire to pick up dirty equipment and bring it back to the fire station and be able to wash it and decon it and put it back in service on the apparatus. And one of our volunteers' vehicles was damaged as in one of those incidents, and we felt like that the volunteers shouldn't be damaging their own equipment for station business, so we purchased a pickup truck. Hey, so sort of to get into about what we're trying to do here, and sort of the department, and sort of where we stand in terms of county council. We cover 3 county council seats: District 1, District 3, and District 5. And we have several voting precincts. We have New Hope, that vote up at Kiwi Fire Department, Newry Corinth that votes at the Newry Post Office, I believe, Ravenel that votes here at the fire station, Shiloh that votes at the substation on Shiloh Road, and then Seneca 2 that votes over at the Seneca Rec Department. And then the map here is just sort of our overall fire district. And as you can sort of see on the map behind me, here, that's the whole county, and we are this small little block right here compared to the whole county. And so we are the smallest fire department in terms of district size in the county. So to sort of get into what we're trying to do here, we have a sort of a timeline that we've put together, and we've got a couple of slides here. I'm not going to talk much about each individual one and each item, but if you want to look at each one or have any particular questions, sort of feel free to reach out to us. But the biggest thing here is in 2017 is when we saw an article about student housing development. 2018, we pancake breakfasts, fundraisers, and whatnot, and the community people that come to our open houses and pancake breakfasts and yard sales, those type of things, that donate to us, say, hey, we need to do something to increase the awareness of the fire department and increase the support of the entire district, not just a few of us. And so we met and we talked about a grassroots effort to come up with a funding source that everyone in the district will participate in, and that's sort of how we got started on this project. So here, the biggest thing here on this slide is sort of the COVID years. We were getting ready to start on the process, and we were able to purchase a voter list from the state to sort of need to know where we stood with how many petitions we needed signed. And so we needed 729. We set a goal of 750, but then COVID hit and sort of put a stop to everything. And then with this slide here, after we felt like COVID was sort of over, we again met with some community liaisons, and we felt like it would be a good time to sort of start this process. And we needed some updated information because it's been a couple of years with COVID. And so we met with our county council members individually to say, hey, look, we want to move forward with the petition. That's what the community wants. It's a grassroots effort, and we got a current assessment of sort of where we were in terms of what our district assessment would be, so that way we could sort of come up with a budget. So here we were sort of getting into 2023, beginning of it, and sort of through the summertime, and just sort of getting the word out there. People talking within their communities, the neighbors talking to neighbors, and sort of got basically sort of where we are. And then I think the next slide talks about the petition itself. So we purchased a new voter list from the state of 4,587 voters in the district. To meet that 15%, we needed 689 voters. We wanted to make sure we set a realistic goal of how many we could obtain from the community. And so we set a goal of 800. And we actually turned in 804 petitions to the county. And as you can sort of see there, we were sort of hot and heavy on sort of gearing up in October of 2023. So fast forward to May 2024, we I think by this time we had turned in the petitions to the county. We had 3 community meetings in May, trying to sort of gear up for a special election in 2024. Hopefully it would have been in July. That didn't quite happen, and so this is sort of where we are now with our timeline of having some more community meetings and gearing up for the election coming up in a couple of weeks. So our department financial overview. So sort of about where we are, right? So community donations. We send out over 4,000 or so letters to the community. Every property receives a donation letter, and sometimes years are good, sometimes years are great, right? So we fundraise anywhere from $60,000 to $90,000 a year. The county allocates $60,000 a year for operations of the fire department in quarterly installments. 45 of that 60 is set aside for operations like paying a power bill or paying the water bill, or stuff like that. And the other 15,000 is set aside for maintenance and new equipment. And for example, pagers or radio or maintenance of the equipment. For example, an oil change on your car today is what, $100 if you have synthetic oil, but an oil change on a fire truck is like $1,800. And so it just takes a lot of funding to be able to maintain the apparatus. We've been very successful with grant funding. My next slide sort of details grant funding, and then just volunteer hours that the volunteers contribute to the community, and that does have a value. So here we can sort of see the some of the grant funds that we have received over the last couple of years. I know it's kind of condensed a little bit; it might be kind of hard to see, but the biggest thing here is the fire department has gotten over $1.9 million in grant funding. It's only cost the fire department $94,000. Backing up to a fire truck. So when we purchased a fire truck in 2017, we received a grant in 2015 for a fire vehicle. Grant funds provided $486,000, and it cost the department $24,300. So that's a great return on the investment of $24,000. But some other things in here is is like our AEDs and our medical bags on each one of our apparatuses. With the level of funding that we receive from the county, it just doesn't buy that equipment, and so we're forced year after year to be able to write grants to be able to provide the equipment that we need. Okay, so at one of the community meetings back in the summertime, I was asked about volunteer and what does the volunteer contribute to the community. So we keep track of our activity and by a point system, and so I went back, pulled some data from our reporting software, came up with some information, and as you can see from this slide here, we have increased our volunteer activity over the last couple of years. And let's just say you assign $20 an hour for a volunteer. Um, Firefighter EMTs are not being paid $20 an hour. They're being paid much more than that. But let's just come up to say $20 an hour for a volunteer for the last couple of years. So you can sort of see right here, just last year in 2023, the volunteers provided over $300,000 of free labor to the community, and so there's some cost there that that we have to recognize and be able to support the volunteers. So at the last meeting, when I talked about the volunteer activity level, I was asked about what are some things that volunteers do that are just not about running calls and training, because you hear a lot about we have close to 900 calls and it's 280 hours to become a fireman a day. So here's some examples of what it takes to run the business of a fire department. It goes from check writing to pay the bills to taking meeting notes at our monthly business meeting to attending community events to even maintaining the volunteer force. Like we should have an HR department of like 5 people, just to retain and recruit volunteers in the onboarding process. It takes a lot. We teach community first aid, home safety visits, installation of smoke alarms. Um, you know, Sort of a big example is we just had a hurricane come through, and so we had a lot of tree down calls, and so prepping for incidents to make sure our equipment is in service. Use a chainsaw, for example. We have to make sure our chainsaws are sharpened. They have fuel. They have oil. And then after we come back to the fire station, we have to decon that equipment. Have to sharpen the chains, put it back in service. Turnout gear. We have to like wash our gear, wash the fire hoses before we put it back in service. So it's more than just running the call and going to training. Um, the fire department is a business, and we have to recognize that it takes more than just running calls and attending training. It takes everything, and this part of the volunteer fatigue that we talk about. So this slide here sort of talks about our donations. We send out 4,600 letters to 4,600 properties. In 2023, we had a total of 673 properties donate to us for a total of $90,000. We had to do fundraising in 2024. We were hopeful to have an election in July, so that way it'll be on this year's tax notices, but that didn't happen, and so now the election here is in November. So we had to fundraise because it just takes money to operate the fire department, and so the money that we had to fundraise to carry us through the year and into next year, so far we've received over $66,000 from 375 property owners. So one of the previous community meetings, I was asked about some of the commercial properties and the donations and responses. So here's a slide for current 2024 through September 30th. to where we had 7 commercial properties donate $3,000 out of the sort of 66,000 we received so far this year. And these are some of the numbers of times we've been to this address or sort of in front of this address for an incident. And that's sort of where we are with some of the commercial properties. Not all, but some. So to step into some of the department challenges and seeing some of the recent growth in the community, if you lived here for any point in time, let's say last 5 years, last 10 years, you've seen the amount of traffic on 123. You're seeing the development of Hartwell Village, and we have just received a lot of growth between Clemson and Seneca. So the next couple of slides just sort of give some examples of some of the recent development. The new mill renovation, epic signature. Lakeside Lodge. One of the things I found out just a couple of weeks ago, as we were sort of doing some inspections around the district, is we have another Greek Life House in the district, and so and then there are scattered single-family homes being built all around the district. And then here's just a couple of examples of some commercial growth in the district. We got 2 major storage facilities in the district now. One up here by Food Lion, and then another one over there off Rochester Highway on the way to Nuri. And just it's just growing like weeds around here in terms of the commercial development. So with growth, with developments comes call volume, right? So the next slide sort of talks about the increased call volume since 2004 until today. So in 2004, our call volume was right at 107 calls. Fast forward to 2022, 2023, and through 9/30 of 2024, you can see we're over 800 calls. And there's a sort of the breakdown of different types of calls, the numbers, and then we sort of broke those down into what types of fires, right? And then some of the rescue and other incidents, we sort of broke those down. I've gotten questions about mutual aid and automatic aid, and how many times have we gone to another fire department district versus how many times have another fire department district come to us. And right there in 2023, we went someplace else 37 times. Another department came to us to help out 24 times. And out of those, 12 of those were structure fires. So why do we have automatic aid? Well, for example, a really bad car accident where there's an extrication. You sort of need many hands on the extrication. Or maybe when someone's having a medical emergency and we need to land a helicopter and can't land the helicopter where we are, so we have a pre-designated landing zone, and so we get assistance from another agency to help land that helicopter. One of the big things here that you can see is sort of the call overlap. What call overlap is when you're on one call, you get a second or a third call. And so in 2023, our call overlap was a little over 21%. So far in 2024, it's a little over 25%. So basically what that's saying is 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5 calls that we're on, we're going to get a second call, maybe a third call. And so it spreads our resources thin. And so, it takes a lot of volunteers to handle 3 calls at one time. All right, so we talked about call overlap, and the next couple of slides sort of give examples of that. And if you actually came to our pancake breakfast back in the summertime, you witnessed firsthand call overlap to where we had 2 calls at one time. So here's some recent information. The Seneca tornado, if you lived here in 2020, the tornado come through, and we had 30 responses on that particular day. And in December 2022, sort of the hard freeze we had over Christmas, 35 incidents for service. And that was a taxing time on the volunteers because yes, there's a lot of people that have frozen water pipes, but there's a lot of volunteers that didn't get to spend Christmas with their families. Um, and so, we're here to provide a valuable and dedicated service, but we make sacrifices too. But another recent call in August of this year, we had 3 calls. Um, you know, right there. I mean, within 45 minutes, and so we had to spread our resources um, to 3 different incidents at one time. All right, so here I also added this. Actually, at our last, no, sorry, not last, but the previous community meeting, we actually had 9 calls for service that particular day on that Saturday. So it was a busy day. We are trying to clean the station up for the community meeting and tailgate, and trying to run 9 calls at one time. But also during the hurricane to come through, we had 67 calls for service, and quite honestly, we probably shouldn't even been out in the middle of that while it was coming over top of us. It was a very dangerous situation. We were on a couple different calls at one time with tree down, and it was just unsafe situation we were in. But everyone came out safe, and everyone went home, which is the most important thing. So, I talk about call volume. I talk about call overlap. I've talked about things that we do as volunteers, and so I mean, just volunteer fatigue is sort of where we are. We've got huge amount of call volume in our district, and I've been asked the question of are those legitimate calls? Absolutely, those are legitimate calls. That's when we've been dispatched by Oconee County Dispatch to answer a call for service. On top of all those other administrative tasks that we do, the fundraising, the grant writing, the community events, and it's just very taxing on the volunteers. So we've been talking about growth, we've been talking about call volume, volunteer fatigue, and just a lot of different things, right? So future growth that we haven't even seen yet. So we got 4 subdivisions going to be built on 130, or at least they've been proposed to be built on 130. Got another piece of property along Rochester Highway, and Old Clemson Highway that's been sold. And next slide. So those are single family homes. And here's some commercial. Got Heritage Hills Phase 3 on Davis Creek Road that's been proposed. We've got student housing development around Paul's Diners, 488 beds being proposed. Student housing development off Shiloh Road, 889 beds. Got Hartwood Village continues to build out. Businesses continue to be built on Clemson Boulevard. So I've talked about call volume, talked about growth, and we got a lot of growth coming up. I mean, like I sort of used the example of Powdersville 20 years ago. If you lived here, what did Powdersville look like 20 years ago? What do we look like today, right? And so therefore, what are we going to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now? So next, we're going to get into some funding challenges. So I've talked about what the county provides, $60,000 a year. The county also provides some apparatus. The ladder truck they provided, engine 30 they provided. They distribute the $60,000 equally to all the rural fire departments in the county. The cities have a separate contract, and if you want to know more about that equal distribution of the 60,000 to the other volunteer fire departments, feel free to reach out and we can answer that question. Our building loan payment for renovation is 48,000. So the whole point of trying to do the tax district is to be able to secure the funding now and into the future for the operation of the fire department. So here, I just wanted to show a comparison of our call volume compared to other departments in Oconee County, and also comparable to other departments of sort of in our area. Here, if you look at the total for 3 years, and in Walhalla and Seneca, I could not get a total for 2023, so that's just really a total for 2 years. But as you can see, we run more calls in a 1 year period than all these other departments that are boxed out in a 3-year period. So in 3 years, we'll run over 2,500 calls, and these other agencies have run 500, 300, 400, and so and they get the same level of funding as we do from Oconee County. And so, I mean, it's just not sustainable with $60,000 a year, and not sustainable with 600 donors, giving $60 to $90,000 a year, and then grant funds. And so, something needs to change, and that's sort of where the donors are doing this grassroots effort with the assistance from the fire department to provide the data to be able to support the creation of the district, for long-term growth, because as we can see, the data is right here. We are running our tails off on calls, in addition to the training and the business of running the fire department. And us volunteers, we're just tired, right? Volunteer fatigue, and we can't keep up. And so that's sort of where we are with call volume. So on November 5th, voting yes will establish through county council of reading of 3 ordinances, will establish a special purpose tax district for fire and rescue services in our fire district, right? And so that would direct funding for all properties, residential and commercial, based on the assessed value of that particular property. Yes, does it include vehicles, boats, and airplanes? We do have 2 airports in our district. Not sure if you knew that or not, but there's 2. A private airport and the Oconee County Regional Airport. But really, it is to ensure stability of the fire department well into the future, to where everyone pays based on their assessment of their particular property. So how do we come up with this millage? How do we come up with a budget? Those type of things, right? Well, we benchmarked ourselves against our neighboring department, Kiwi Fire Tax District, right up the road. We looked at their budget. We looked at their cost. We looked at their call volume. We looked at their staffing levels, and we talked with our community contacts, and we felt like benchmarking ourselves against them would be the step in the right direction. And so that's what we did. And so that's sort of where we sort of modeled our budget out of, and that's sort of what. All right, so what is it actually going to cost people, right? So the petition and what we're going to vote on November 5th is not to exceed 25 mils. And for a homeowner that's an owner occupant, let's just say it's $100 per every 100,000 of assessed value. Now that's assessed value, not real property value in terms of what you could sell your house for today. For like a rental piece of property, it's $150 per 100,000. It's actually a little bit less than that based on the Oconee County figures on the next slide. So here's some figures provided by Oconee County. You should receive this in your mail when you receive your property tax bill. So for a home valued at $100,000 or home valued at $250,000, now that's assessed value. If you look at your tax bill, and I have a copy of a tax bill coming up here in the next couple of slides. So it'll be a $150 increase for a rental piece of property, $94.40 for owner occupant, so it's a little bit less than $100 per 100,000. And then if you have the homestead exemption, so if you're, I believe, 65 or older, you can apply for a homestead exemption, and it's $47.40. So if you have any questions about how to apply for a homestead exemption, feel free to reach out to us or go see the auditor's office up at Oconee. All right, so I wanted to use my property as an example. And so I live at 509 Plantation Road, and my assessed taxable value is $176.55. My tax bill is on the next slide. Now, can I sell my property today or next week for something higher than that? Absolutely. I'm sure I probably can. But still, that is what Oconee County is assessing it at today. And so my tax bill on my property, after you do the calculation, will be $176.50. I have a couple of vehicles. My '08 Dodge Ram be $1.23 increase. Now I know there's some data going out there about vehicle values. Um, so I also have a 2016 Tahoe. I think my 2016 Tahoe is worth 25, 30, $35,000. I probably do, but it's not being assessed at that. It's being assessed more like at $14,000. So it's a $24.54 increase. So on my home and my two vehicles, we're looking at a little over $200 in taxes for the fire department. And granted, I know some people it's going to be less, some people it's going to be more. But I think that's a sort of a fair example of maybe the average of our district. And I think I personally would be ecstatic to pay this to know that I have a full time fire department that's providing fire and rescue services to my community and my home and my family. Hey, so here is my tax bill that I just got on the Oconee County website and took a screenshot, and you can sort of see where my property description is, the $176,000 assessment, 4%, to where it comes to a total assessed value of $7,060. Multiply that by the millage. The county millage is 214. So if you sort of look at the bill here, you can sort of see that there's a box there for Kiwi fires. So if this passes, there'd be a sort of a box there, almost kind of like I have written out here for Corinth Shiloh Fire 25, and be a $176.50 increase in my property tax. You can look at your tax bill and take the 7060, whatever number yours is, times that by 0.025 to come up with that number. And if you have any questions about that, please feel free to reach out to us and we can look up your particular property and have that one-on-one conversation. So a little bit about the budget. I talked about needs, call volume, benchmarking us against Kiwi Fire Tax District, and to come up with a budget, right? So here's a budget of a little over $1.1 million. Granted, most of that is staff, payroll, taxes, those type of things. And so that's sort of where we are on a budget. We have worked with some of our community leaders on this budget. We worked with Oconee County on this budget. Again, this is just a draft budget. We're voting on November 5th to establish a tax district. As part of that, Oconee County will write an ordinance to establish the district, and then some commissioners will be appointed who will actually finalize a budget to be presented to Oconee County. And so that's sort of where we are, but we had to come up with a draft. And so this is the budget. If you have any questions, particularly about the budget, I'll be free to answer those questions for you. Just reach out to us. So what are we doing this for, right? So here's the benefits. We got a couple of benefits here. I've talked about these benefits throughout this whole presentation. Help lessen the heavy burden on the volunteers, right? I mean, it's just a huge burden on us volunteers, and you can sort of see from the slides. And if you want to have a conversation about the burden of those volunteers, feel free to reach out to us. If you want to be a volunteer, come and join up. It's going to provide full-time staffing at the station, reduce emergency response times. Biggest thing here is consistent and reliable funding for the district, to where every property owner is going to pay according to their property value assessment, right? And here's the big thing that we want everyone to know is the tax revenue that's going to be collected by the district stays within the district, right? The funds will be collected by Oconee County. Those funds will be turned around and given back to the district, and so it won't be going someplace else in Oconee County. The money you pay for fire and rescue services in Corinth Shiloh Fire Department district for your property would stay here. So what's next? We got one more community meeting coming up. It's gonna be an open house on November 3rd. Please come to the community meeting. I will not be able to be here because I have some travel arrangements for work. But Danny Darmarco, our treasurer, will be here to actually give this presentation and also question and answer some of the volunteers and open house. So come by and see us. Come by and visit the fire trucks. I think we're going to have some barbecue here. We're going to be attending county council meetings. We're going to send out a flyer to all the registered voters. Oconee County is going to send out a flyer with a tax notice. We're going to continue our social media campaign. We have some new yard signs, so if you want a yard sign for vote yes. We got some cups, vote yes. Our LED board here at the fire department has some issues from the hurricane. We finally got that repaired yesterday. So if you've been driving by the last couple of days, it hasn't worked, but now it works. So really, we're working on getting the vote yes campaign out. And if you want to help us, great. Talk to your neighbors. Tell them that you support this. Tell them this is a great thing. If you don't support it, please contact us and let's have a one-on-one sit down so we can talk about your particular property and see if we can answer some questions that you may have. So thank you for listening to the presentation. Here's some contact information for us in terms of Instagram, Facebook, and then our email address, info@corinthshilowfd.com. And, as us as volunteers, we love serving our community. We spend a lot of man hours, as you can see in previous slides. We do a fantastic service for our community, and we're asking for your support, or your neighbors are asking for your support. I've lived here pretty much my entire life, ever since the 3rd grade, and I went to Seneca, and graduated, and have continued living in the fire district. And so, I'm a property owner too, and I want what's best for our community. And so, therefore, I'm asking you personally to vote yes on November 5th. And thank you for supporting us. Thank you for your donations over the years. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you.